You want mission staff?
Volunteers. Jeff doesn't want to abstain because he's on the list and we will get 2 board members. Would it die for lack of second, or should it be something that we consider?
For the beverage.
We'll go to the board meeting.
Yeah.
Volume in this room, executive session will take you there.
Yep.
That. And then we'll just leave you on the splash to start.
Okay.
Why you didn't go around?
I've done that.
Yeah.
Good fish action.
Oh, that's why I said those back roads are horrible. Okay, we're at 7:03. Let's get his jacket up. Ready? You let me know when you're ready. All right. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tony absent, Mary absent. Okay, welcome everybody. Make a motion to approve tonight's agenda with the added 10.02 head of maintenance recommendation. No, I'm asking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of 10.02.
Did you see that?
Second.
You saw that got added?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Okay.
Okay, public comment or questions related to non-agenda items? Do we have any?
Just me.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I just have a little update on how our graduation ceremony things are going. So far we have a setup and takedown list of people in our class. We have about 10, 12 kids who said they were set up and about the same amount for takedown. And then I also talked to Steve about getting help with maybe some handicap stuff and asked if he had a handicap ramp to get on and off the field. And he said we didn't have one. So the senior class is gonna get one of those. And he said him and his group are gonna help us with setup and takedown as well. I also talked to Nesper about getting the sound system set up, and we have 3 kids who are willing to help with that. As far as the handicap situation, we have plans to still with 10 handicap spot parking. We're gonna have some underclassmen help, like with parking and stuff like that. Also, we just have to get those ramps and make sure we have all those before we go. And I was just wondering if you guys had any suggestions on what we could do for handicap spots on the field.
What the ramps, or is that to get on and off the track?
Yeah, to get on and off the
Just
track.
get over that.
Yeah, and
curb.
and like a rug and like an outdoor rug to cover the grate so they're not getting stuck on stuff like that.
You said you had underclassmen to help with parking, so we could set out cones for the handicap. I mean, just make sure that
Yeah.
they have the documentation or the license plate, or understand that they know what to look for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
And
make sure
you can block off as many as you think we need. So
Yeah. Do you have any suggestions about spots on the grass? Or did we do that?
As far as where they would to view
And to general accessibility to get onto the field. Like we don't, because it's kind of hard to push.
Yeah, well, obviously you go by the ticket booth off the track, and maybe they want to be on the track if they want to be closer. I would imagine we probably have enough people around to accommodate if we need to help people get across the grass.
Okay.
I don't think a rug or anything like that would help because it'd still be soft. You'd have to have plywood or something. I think that's might be overkill, but I think there's enough people to help get them through the grass if we need to do so.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So do you have so has there been talk about like a deadline about whether like we know a few days before?
Yeah, we were talking, I was talking with Mr. Hendrickson about that, and we said if 2 days before, if it was forecasted to be rainy or just bad weather on that day, we would just keep the stuff inside.
So graduation's on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Would we know, say, Wednesday then? Would that be?
Potentially. I'm not too sure because actually recently I've been looking at the weather have because we're trying to figure out if we're going to have practice inside or outside. And sometimes it's wrong, and sometimes the forecast isn't going to be like it's not going to be rainy at the time of our practice, even though it says it has a chance for the rain that day. So
Yeah,
can-
it's a tough call.
yeah, we can move it. We'll try to figure that out as soon as possible when that week comes up. But if it's good to go, that's what we like to keep doing. So.
Do you have a written setup takedown schedule?
Yes, I do, but Miss Schilling has it in the classroom, and I couldn't get it.
I'd like to see it
I'll make sure
if I
to
could. That'd
Yeah.
be great.
make sure to bring it to you guys.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment or questions related to non-agenda items? Okay, and we will move on to approval of the consent agenda.
So I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
There are a couple of things on the warrants that I'm interested in. You knew that, didn't you?
I would expect.
So, I changed my habits here, and I'm trying to go by the page numbers in the left-hand column.
Okay.
Instead of trying to figure out what I'm doing.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Because there are multiple claims listed,
Right.
so what happens, I combine. Okay.
Right, so I'm gonna bounce around a little bit. Page 4.
Okay.
Digital as well.
Yeah.
4. There's a big one for fencing.
Yeah, the fencing. Is that not, that's independent of the grant then?
No, that is tied to the SKC safety and security grant. Is that what it was?
Are you
Oh,
talking about the
Community
softball field?
development, yeah.
Community development. Yeah.
Community development from
Tribal council. So the money came into the school district. We put it into a miscellaneous fund so that we could track it, and then money was spent back out based on what the bids were, how the grant was written. Everything falls in line as far as expenditures go. Mr. Nesper did a really good job pre-planning that one. So that was basically money in, money out.
And that's the first installment,
That's
right?
first installment. Those boys show up and want part of it up front. So
And they're working there now, right?
Yep,
it's almost done, right?
They're almost.
There'll be any mesh today or tomorrow.
And this just leaps out at me, and I might have to have you remind me. The Harmony payment on page 5,
Yep. You should be got it.
32,000.
Yeah.
And then in November, we had almost 24,000.
Yeah.
Remind me what our schedule is to
So they send us a bill.
recoup that loss.
So basically, this year, we're paying out what we figured close to 60. I don't know where we're at now.
Yeah, it's
Probably
already
a little
done
over that, but we plan on 60 out this year, which turns into 120 next year. It doubles next year. So we'll get 120, then we'll basically get half the A and B for every Harmony student going forward. So whether depending on what age they are, just figure on 6,000 per Harmony student.
In addition to the 120?
No, that's the 120.
That
So
would be-
That is the,
Yeah.
we'll pay out 60 this year, and now, so every year A and B is based on this year's count for next year. So that'll increase our general fund 120. Roughly.
Increase depending on the number of students that we have enrolled, right? So if Harmony brought in 20 students and we stayed the same, say we were at 450 and we bumped up to 470, it would increase 120. If it was 20 students to keep us where we were previously, we would hold our budget where it was at, but we had to pay up front to get those students in. So it's not a straight across increase, but it was it does bring in money next year for this year's kids. So they are enrolled and it does bring money forward for next year's budget.
And I think I can do that, I just need to do the money, thank you. But we will be making payments like this to,
They reconciled with us after count date, so October, first week in October, right? We have count date first week in February. They reconciled with us. We went back, fought over a handful of students who were supposed to be enrolled, not enrolled at a certain time period, and whether or not we're going to pay for them. And then, signed off to pay the bill.
but, so we get 120, but we pay them another 60 out of there.
Well, next year we'll pay based on who's enrolled August or come October and February. But the money for those students will always be 1 year out.
1 year. Cool, I just curious. I noticed on page 10,
Okay.
I'm looking ahead here a little bit, and then I'm gonna come back, but, so we've paid for, I don't know, I can't move this. We paid for the boiler license training, is that correct?
Yes.
But that hasn't been completed. It's
No.
paid up front. So.
Yeah. Alrighty, just a couple of other. On, back up to 3 and 4.
Okay. You read them a few times, huh?
Yeah. Or not enough words. Anyway, there's and maybe Mr. Hall can help me with this. There's a lot of softball expense at the bottom of 3 at the top.
I can give you that one for Mr. Nesper's credit card. All of that was built into the grant that was received by the school for the softball baseball. So Mr. Nesper, in the process, had priced out all of these items. In his proposal, all of the expenditures matched the items that he had priced out. So
That's the grant that paid for it.
Yeah.
I was just curious if any of those expenses are incurred by the member districts, as in Arlene.
as in Arlene,
They
Charlotte.
don't pay any of
I
that.
mean, you're on
But not
Well,
for
they're
the
part of the
grant
grant.
money. I mean,
It's all grant money,
Yeah.
so it's not school money. It's not costing our district, it's not costing their district, which is also why it fit well into community development, because it is shared by Arlie, Charlo, us, as well as the baseball fields down there.
Right. Yeah, I was just curious.
I think that had a lot to do with us getting the grant, is because it's a shared,
Right.
co-op with communities.
I think that's all I have.
Will we follow up on the county waste one that we talked about last month?
Yeah, did you-
During administration.
Did you
meeting?
receive my email?
Yeah, I got
regarding
that.
that?
I just seen.
So 74 bins at X amount, they did the math for us. Also, Carolyn stated, we're taking a look at it all, right? Like, I think that Republic Services is going to do an analysis of whether or
There'll be
not
an adjustment.
74 bins is needed, and then whether.
'Cause it seems like
Well, this
3
is-
months off in the summer, it's not, I mean, you get some.
Right.
Well, and also, how do they figure 74? Because we don't have 74 bins, we have 3 large bins. So what qualifies as a bin? And if we have 1 bin removed, we then have 2 bins and a compactor. And what's a compactor?
Yeah.
Say, and the garbage doesn't go to Lake County, the garbage goes to Missoula. So we have a lot of questions.
We have questions regarding the process of this third party who's not involved with Republic Services and us.
And when it doubled for the residents, 90 to 180, I mean, so up $90, but when it doubles the amount that you guys were paying, it's like,
Yeah.
pretty big chunk. So hopefully it'll get.
Yeah, and I think that's across the board. We brought it up and then, like I said, Carolyn said, you're not the only school district. It's a year where everybody's wondering, what is this amount? So it's not under scrutiny, but it's under spotlight.
Okay, anybody else? All right, moving and seconded, all those in favor? Okay. Okay, move on to presentations. We have an elementary presentation.
Today we have the 4th grade, Miss Donovan's class. That's my bad. I forgot to let Mr. Sargent know we switched it up from the 5th grade. Give Mr. Krantz a break. So we have the 4th grade to come. We have Miss Kalina and Miss Guy to come up here and speak to the board about the work they do in Miss Donovan's class with the plants and the worms and everything they do to get ready for the plant sale for the year. So, ladies, the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Kalina, and I will be talking about these seed packets we do in class. In the morning before math, we sometimes do these things called science centers. One center is where you get to cut out paper and draw a picture of a flower and color it in. I really like to do that. Another center is where we take dried flowers and take the seeds out of it. And then we throw the flower away after we took the seeds out. It is really fun. And my name is Skylar, and I'm talking about the worms. They are red worms. We use them to make soil good, so plants can grow fast and stay healthy and don't die. We have science centers, and we do worms. We pick worms out of dirt, and we also get food for them. Sometimes we get fruit from the cafeteria. People give the food to the worms.
So the 4th grade works all year on getting the plants ready for the plant sale, and I've seen them in the cafeteria collecting old milk cartons and food for compost for the worms, and it's a full year, full-time project that they incorporate into their learning every single day. Yes, so if you have any questions, I'm sure these ladies would love to answer.
What's their favorite food?
Simon said they like bananas.
Bananas, ooh, nice.
When is the plant sale? You guys know?
May 9th.
May 9th?
So are some seeds in the ground starting now, or are you still just prepping and none have been planted yet? Or
We planted quite a bit.
planted some?
In your classroom?
You got any questions for us?
Can you tell, I don't know if everybody had a chance to also see the 4th grade's wax museum, which was super cool. Could you tell the board just briefly about what the wax museum was all about? Very cool. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it was pretty neat. History.
So we got to pick these inventors from different times, and we made their invention out of cardboard, and we got to paint it and stuff. And then we typed out a speech, and we made a button, and then whoever came up to us, they pressed the button, and we came to life and read our speech to them.
Very cool.
They dressed up as the inventors and had all those classes come through it like it was a museum exhibit.
Oh, very nice.
Miss Donovan's
That's
class does things like this a lot. We're lucky to have her. She's
That's
really
awesome.
passionate about this interactive learning these kids do.
That's awesome.
Really great. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Oh, this is.
Thank you, Miss Donovan.
Very nice.
Find me 2 minutes.
2 minutes, kid?
Yeah, just give me 32 seconds.
2 minutes or 32 seconds?
Oh, 'cause he doesn't have the converter, that's right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, let me see if I can get the presentation up. I don't think there's somebody that is a part of that.
All right, I apologize, I'm running 2 computers today.
So I have this part, just not all of it.
Yeah, it's not. I have it right here. Please. wait. Okay. This will work good enough. Get majority of the points. NAFIS is the National Association of Federated Impact Schools. this is a group that kind of monitors impact aid and what's going on. So I've been wanting to do this for like 15 years, and finally, Mr. Sargent agreed that it was time to have somebody go over and represent our school in Washington, D.C. So this is my update of what happened.
And it was a big year.
It was a really
Because
big year.
it's-
I'll kind of build up to it. So, quick synopsis of Impact Aid, the basics. Impact Aid was signed into law in 1950, so we're celebrating 75 years this year. Okay. It supports 1,082 school districts, approximately 8 million students nationwide. It is administered by the Department of Education. It's appropriated by Congress annually in the budget. And it is also sent directly to school districts without state involvement. That's a pretty important signifier for Impact Aid. You've heard a lot of push for local control. This is about as local as it gets. The money goes directly to the school districts. So, and it's the only major K-12 program that isn't forward funded, meaning our application for this year isn't paid till next year. So it's why we usually have arrears of at least 1 year in funding so that we don't run into issues. Schools that don't, when they hit what's happening this year, they tend to run into some issues budgetarily. As of right now, current update of Impact Aid, this year they paid out 50% of lot payments. I'm not going to explain what lot payment is. You just need to understand that Impact Aid's never been fully funded. So lot's their way of saying this is what your fully funded is now. For example, their calculation last year said the Mission or St. Ignatius School should be about 1.6 million. Our prorated lot amount was 1.1 million. Of that, they funded 94%. So you can see how, as you're budgeting, that amount never actually is something that we're able to kind of ballpark, but we don't know what it's going to end up being because of the way they've convoluted the calculations over the years. So currently, the Impact Aid Department consists of 19 employees. The director spoke. She spoke the day before we went to Congress to talk to our representatives. She was very confident that things were going to go well, but she said she had no more information than anybody else did. There's 19 of them. 10 of them are analysts. They serve 1,100 schools, meaning that each of them serves over 100 schools apiece. So she said that their policy is to return correspondence within 48 hours. Their rule in office is within 1 hour, and they do a pretty good job of that. So they process the applications, complete program reviews, process payments directly to the schools. This is the most efficient version that we've had in the 15 years that I've been here. Payments are on time. Applications are processed well ahead of time. The applications used to be processed into the next year. They're processed in the current year. Once they receive funding, the funding goes out. It's very efficient how they operate. So we kind of use that as one of our talking points when we went and visited.
Can I ask you one quick question?
Yeah, go
So
for it.
the 50% of the lot payment, we always get 100%.
Well, we get up to this, I'll get to that, probably
Okay.
94% this year. So good question, 50% up to date. The rest of it's hanging in the balance based on whether the CR, continuing resolution, was going to be voted on. So they haven't passed a budget in the last year. They've just done the continuing resolutions to keep funding government, but they haven't really balanced it. And I think that's what their big goal is. But to avoid a government shutdown, they're trying to push this in so that schools can get the other X amount of percentages. As far as the timeline goes, they didn't pay that out to us until December. Normally it's paid early November. Normally we get the second payment February. We're still waiting. So that's kind of where the process is right now. NAFIS, the talking points that we went to take to our legislators were NAFIS is opposed to attempts to dismantle the Department of Education, and concerned reduction of staff or transfer of authority will affect timely dissemination of payments and support. And I think that answer that I just gave you explains why. Like, it kind of holds things up as we see where things are going. They requested a consideration for a program increase of 20 million in 2025 and 65 million in 2026. Requested an advance towards full impact aid funding, which has not been done since 1969. Encouraged our representatives to join the Impact Aid Caucus. And the final request, which was some schools did and some schools didn't, but the Montana contingency felt this was very important. We serve 62 schools. We only serve one on military lands. So we felt that if we got separated, it would kind of be a divide and conquer type of positioning that they would take, where they'd move us into separate departments and then they'd start funding us based on those departments. I mean, kudos to the military. They probably have triple the budget if the military lands went into the Department of Defense. Indian lands and federal lands got shoehorned into other departments. It's unknown what would happen at that point. So we asked our legislators to attempt to keep all of those together, since technically they're funding education, they're not funding defense, they're not funding land, they're not funding federal. So
And that department is the Department of Impact Aid?
the Department of Education.
Okay.
And within that, the Impact Aid Department has a team. So right now they're located in the Department of Education. Okay. We brought in 30 members. There's kind of a competition between North Dakota or South Dakota, Oklahoma, and us. We had 30 members, which were the most out of anybody that brought a contingency to Montana. And you can see there, that's right outside Representative Zinke's office. He invited all 30 of us into his office. He had 15 minutes before he was heading over to vote on the CR that day. And he invited everybody in, round table. I mean, he came out full of fire. He was like, hey, everybody get in here. You know, he's a politician. You can see it right away. But it was a very positive opening. He hit his talking points. They obviously have the talking points, I believe, directly from the top about government spending inefficiency. You know, he talked about Doge finding. He kind of hit all through the trifecta. $1 billion in Sri Lanka for trans department of, you know, something. And so it was like, okay, he hit all three of those there. Those were hot items. I know that they were after. So he alluded to it taking 60 votes to get rid of the Department of Education. And there's only 53 in the Senate right now. So he said, you're aware that we don't have the votes to dismantle the Department of Education. But he stated that it would need to be cleaned up. So that was the first person that talked about that. We gave our support to the Impact Aid Department, stating their efficiency in processing payments, how it hasn't delayed us. And also one of the key points that I think they made while we were there, the Department of Impact Aid, all are working in office, which was one of the sticking points that I think they had for some of this stuff. So we gave them our best foot forward. All 19 are in office. They're working. You can see what's happening. And then straight from that photo, he jumped in the elevator down to the basement, jumped on the subway across to start the negotiations for the CR, which were happening at that moment. We met with Senator Daines' staff leader, Riley. I didn't get his last name. Nice guy, very professional. Actually, let me back up one. On Zinke, when we were talking about the Department of Impact Aid and being in-house and how we supported him, both he and his chief of staff popped up. They looked up and they're like, that's good information to know. We'll forward that information to who needs to know. So Senator Daines, he's been on the Impact Aid Caucus and currently has been a supporter from day one. His staffer said that they're taking Sheehy step for step along with Daines in this because he's hitting the ground running so fast. So they felt that there would be support on that end as well. Daines' office confirmed that the CR would include funding for the rest of 25 at 94%, and then level funding for 26, which would mean that there would not be an increase. It would be the same basically as the 2024 budget. So as you can see, we're going to be working forward with the same budget that was passed in 24 based on the resolution that's out there. Daines sponsored the A+ Act, again, to help guide education funding back to communities and their constituents. But staffer said it was more in preparation to make sure the department wasn't gutted without a plan in place. And we kind of got that feeling that they understand things are happening very fast and they're hoping that they have some more details. But as of right now, we're in support. We support you. But these things need to happen, but we support you. But we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that there's something going forward. So it was at that time that I realized, I asked somebody because I'd never been there before. It's like, is this chaotic? And everybody who'd been there before said, yes, it is extremely chaotic for how this is normally done. Even coming from Montana and going into my first session and kind of watching it, you just felt like a buzz, like everybody was roaming around. It was just really, it was wild and chaotic. And I don't know if everybody knew what was going on next. We were also in the middle of a budget vote. So that was kind of a cool time to be there. Kind of got to see how things are made.
Does NAPA support the A+ Act?
We haven't seen the A+ Act yet. It was apparently on the representative from Oklahoma's desk. It's being forwarded to them for the next round of what was going on. But at that time, they were solely working on the continuing resolution to avoid a government shutdown, which would have happened on Friday, this last Friday. So this picture here, Jason, swing it over. That's where the Supreme Court justices are sworn in. Dane's got us that room for 2 hours because he knew that we were going to have 30 people showing up. So they showed up in the last 15 minutes, and we got about 5 minutes apiece with Dane's his guy and with Senator Sheehy. He did confirm that he would join the Impact Aid Caucus and said he would be stepping. Yeah, he would be step in step with Dane's to make sure that everything was working on a state level. He also alluded to the plan to not take, or the plan for money to be taken out of the DOE, block granted to the states for local education control. So again, the same theme that we've heard about what's happening in the Department of Education and how they would like the states to manage it. Not a lot of difference between the three of them. He advocated for vocational and trade schools, and he alluded to keeping military lands, federal lands, and Indian lands together and funded out of the Department of Health and Human Services. He's the first person that gave us an idea of which department maybe it would come out of. But at the time right now, as of talking to 3 people, we were all concerned if there is a reauthorization of where it comes from, nobody knows where we would be moved to. He made it at least sound like they had an idea, but then maybe backed up and thought that he had said too much. So after we left that meeting, everything was up in the air, but we felt good knowing that at least talking to legislators, we were supported with future funding of Impact Aid.
Yeah.
Until 1 hour later and 1 block away, we were sitting watching CNN trying to see what the continuing resolution vote was going to be. By the way, they passed it about 1 minute before this flashed across the news. Education Department to be cut about 50% of the workforce. Department of Education was closed for security reasons. All staff was sent home to be reevaluated. Our director was sending text messages to the people that I was in the room with, kind of trying to figure out. Real buzz happened at that point. We were like, we just got done talking to these guys. I think they had an idea, which is why Zinke and his chief of staff kind of like lit up when we said these are in-house employees. They're working really efficiently. We support them. But yeah, they passed the CR budget in the House, and then they ordered all representatives to go home. So Zinke was on my flight home the next day, basically to force the Senate to make a vote before the 17th. Otherwise, government would shut down. So we all ended up, after feeling pretty good about ourselves in the morning, feeling less than confident as we left, right? A lot of things are up in the air. Seems like things are happening very fast, and they're kind of putting plans together as they're going. But I can say that as I was coming home, the CR was passed by the Senate on Friday, March 17th, and it's funded, government is funded through September 30th. So we know that's a go. Once the bill is signed, the funds will make their way to the proper channels. It will likely be several weeks, however, until additional impact aid payments are made. So that's where the big concern is right now. A lot of the school districts sitting waiting on these payments because they're waiting to make their next moves based on this year. For us, ours are going to be based on budgeting and planning for next year. We are confident that we will receive 94% of lot for the remainder of this year, and then it'll kind of all be up in the air again next year, but it is built in to fund next year at level funding amounts from 2024. We did also receive the news that NAFIS was recognized by the administration on how important it was. Impact Aid program spared all its staff. So we can feel confident that once it does get to our people, it will be done efficiently. There's just a lot of other arms that are going to slow it down. And I think that was a consensus as we all left. There's uncertainty, and there is definitely a lot of things are being slowed down right now. So we kind of have to plan for those, wait on those. It was better than not knowing, right? Like, I think a lot of us kind of were sitting here for all the years that I've been here. We just kind of waited and took Impact Aid for granted. Got to go over and see how this all worked out. And in probably the busiest year anyone said that they had experienced. Really rewarding, at the same time frustrating, but we did have some answers. Going forward, also more questions. So that's that. I would answer any questions.
Are we members of NAFIS?
Yes, we are.
And the only thing I would add for anybody, just basically Impact Aid pays for everything other than teacher salaries. Everything else comes out of Impact Aid, which we count on heavily. When we started, we were way down at one point. We've got it built up to what we count on generally $1 million a year to keep our school afloat. And the biggest worry for years has always been, what if Impact Aid was taken? And the only rationale that I've heard, it's been quite a few years, other districts have come after those monies saying, let's equalize funding across the state. Everything goes in one pot. Then it's dispersed out evenly. And that's the big fight as well from a local standpoint of, it is different because our general fund over the past 50 years, every school district's had an opportunity to run levies, local school levies, for the additional 20% of the 80% that we get for general fund.
Change their base budget.
And so our base budget isn't comparing, you could compare 1 year at 20%, but you've got to compound that 20% over 50, 60 years. That other school districts, it isn't the 20% they pass for 1 year. That money is in, and then they run another 20, another 20, another 20, another 20. So if we jumped in the game now, we would be way, way, way behind where other districts would be, in lieu of, in comparison, probably ahead of many districts that maybe have not been able to pass bonds for the 20 additional percent that, that they all try for. But it gives you a big idea, a better idea of how important Impact Aid is. It's important. It's very important. So,
Yeah, I also told both Danes and Sheehy's staffers who were kind of hanging out in the back, it was very important for that to be funded directly to the schools as well. If it went into the state pot like ESSER did, they took 17% off the top of that for administrative costs. We've seen up to 50% in, outside indirect costs that they can charge grants. We prefer that to be sent directly to us to be managed. So there's no better control than the local control that we have for Impact Aid. So that way that the hands don't get into it before. So those were kind of the spots that we stood on. I know a lot of years we go back, or the group NAFIS goes back and tries to negotiate for appropriations. This year that felt like maybe trying to ask for a raise when you're going to be fired. So those were real soft asks. The main asks were, hey, keep us together, keep us in the Department of Ed, and get us funded. And so it was really a a lot more of a solemn ask this year than it was, hey, we really have needs that we have that are above this. So,
And you left with what sort of gut feeling about that?
I would say through 2026, I'm confident we'll get paid the additional 44% by, I would hope by May. 2026, I don't know. I think that was part of the continuing resolution, but only funds through September 30th. The next impact day payment isn't made until October or November. So that will be defined again in the next budget, whether or not it's a full budget or whether it's continuing resolution. So
It comes in twice a year.
it comes in twice a year. It could come in multiple times. We've had payments come in up to 6 times a year and up to 2 years after. Those were departments that didn't manage it near as well. So the way the law is written states that they have to pay out all of their funding within 2 years. And so a lot of the years, the previous people who were leading it kept a reserve and then paid that out up to 2 years later. This group does a really good job of getting all that money out and then having, being confident in their process going forward. So. It was,
Jeff, Bill.
yeah, big of a bathroom. It was really important. I would say that having representation from multiple school districts was applauded. It was the first time we'd ever showed up, and we were thanked a bunch. There was the only other school on the western side was Arlene. So a lot of the school districts in Montana felt like the eastern side of the state was carrying a lot of the burden for doing this negotiation. So,
So you guys organized as a group then?
organized as a group, went in together. Board chair from Browning was able to get all the meetings for us ahead of time, has done it for 28 years. And so I kind of sided up next to him and tried to learn as much as I could. And it was,
Ronan sends their superintendent and a couple board members every year. So
Nationwide, would you say what state gets the most impact? Would you say Oklahoma? You mentioned
Oklahoma for Indian land, Arizona for Indian lands, but their contingencies were actually really small. Bob Lewandowski was there. Saw him. He's on an impact aid school in Arizona. He didn't recognize me, so I just and Oklahoma is second, and then military lands, Texas. I sat down at a table. I didn't know it was all Texas people, and they were all pretty powerful Texas people.
So you'd hope their delegates would be on.
Yeah, and I hope that there's other states that are feeling the same way about keeping all of us together, right? Like I said, some contingencies went in and may have been negotiating more for themselves personally. As Montana goes, Oklahoma, the people I talked to from there, and Wyoming and South Dakota, they all felt it very strongly that we keep military lands and federal together and have that power. Since it is all education money, it is not money that goes to other reasons.
So Great Falls would be the big military.
The one for us,
For
yeah.
us.
61 Indian land schools, 1 military school in Montana.
So does the House of Rep have input on this? Is that how that works back there? House of Rep does stuff and then it goes to the Senate?
But as far as,
But you didn't
I think
meet
it
with-
starts down in the caucuses and then rolls up, and then the House had the opportunity to vote on the bill first, and then it went to the Senate. Like I said, then they forced their hand. They all jumped on a plane. I actually heard that in the basement. They're like, hey, they're voting today and they're leaving this afternoon, or Zinke's was the next afternoon. But it was really a strange time because they were trying to avoid a government shutdown. So also the mall is huge. I walked 17 miles the one day that I had to just walk around it. And when I sat down at 4 o'clock, it's a lot of space you can get out here. So, but that's that. Yeah, we got a lot of business to move on to. I would just say, yeah, representation I think is very important. I don't think any more so than this year.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to correspondence 7.01. Got a couple resignations.
Ms. Savage will be leaving us at the end of this year. Outstanding educator. Going to be tough to replace her, but we wish her well. and thankful for her service.
Okay, 7.02, another resignation.
Same, Miss Nolan, resigned. She's our fax teacher, since August of 22. Again, thank her. She's done a great job with the coffee cart and taking kids close up and done a wonderful job with a lot of programs, so.
All right, no old business. Move on to board preparation planning, 9.01 district goals. We on pace.
Not a whole lot of updates, but that's where we're at, updated.
So if we, I was looking at page 7. That's on those pages on, which I can't seem to scroll through for some reason. But anyway, page 7.
I don't have page numbers on mine. Is it a
The
goal?
ones on the right, on the left-hand side.
So.
Okay.
3D.
Okay.
Why am I not scrolling?
You want, still waiting to hear on charge school application?
Yeah, 3D.
Yeah, 3D, I just said
That's not the point where I wanted. Oh, I wanted to be a 3B.
3B.
Which is something similar. We're talking about completing the public charter school application. That's really, so it says if we cannot make gains with enrollment in charter school, cuts will need to happen for next year. Are we at that point then? Would you say we're gonna have to cut somebody?
No, we've actually made cuts, but without losing people. So moving people around, we have been able to cut what we need to cut to move forward. So,
we've gotten rid of positions, but not people.
right.
Yeah, that's me. Kind of, so, I mean, it seems to like this will need to happen, but it's already happened, right?
Well, we're hoping and believe that STARS Act's going to pass, which is a gain. That's a plus. Enrollment with Harmony. It's obviously not what we hoped for with the kind of help that we would have had with the charter, because we went from having a whole lot of money to now just relying on enrollment and the STARS Act. So, but I think with the plan that we currently have, we can get very close. We're still going to have to go into impact aid, but not as much as we did this year. This year we went into impact aid a lot. Next year, with what is in place and the elimination of a couple positions that through attrition and moving people and people leaving and being able to cut a few positions without having to cut people. We didn't want to cut people and we didn't want to cut programs. So this is the best case scenario for where we're at.
STARS Act, that doubles our quality educator. You know what that roughly?
Is,
Figuring 150.
so this thing comes directly from MQEC and MTSBA. It looks like with the teachers that we have including the one district clerk position, which you guys approved last time, you'd have an increased revenue of $175,000, increased expenses to get up to the base that you need to get the people who are not up to 41,615, which is what their minimum would be, roughly 29,295. So you have a net revenue 145 roughly in there, based on how the bill's currently written. They update this, including the spreadsheet as things progress. So we're still using all of this as soft information, but at least it's guidance.
What's the, bring that, how much does it cost to bring this base up again? Did you say?
Right around $30,000.
30,000. But we pay that before we get the payment, right?
Yes. Well, we would pay that out throughout the year.
Out of the general fund.
That 30,000.
Yeah, that's going to be built into all the contracts. It's basically just what the requirement is to qualify for the stars.
All right, cool.
Are the two resignations gonna be, I mean, the schedule will be for sure, because you're already advertising for one, but the family consumer science will be advertised after tonight? Or
I had to, we already accepted, so I think it's what tomorrow it's this week, we can open it up. You had to do the 5 days in-house, which we're still under, and I believe the 5 days is up tomorrow. So we can advertise that starting tomorrow, I believe. 5
Yeah,
days.
right in there.
5 days.
Will? Okay, we'll move on to new business, 10.01 job descriptions.
So the only two we're adding this month are high school, middle school administrative assistant, which there was an elementary, but not a high school, middle school, and the special ed administrative assistant. Those are the two job descriptions that were added this month. And we're getting close to being complete on that.
The special education administrative assistant processes Medicaid billing, is that correct?
Yes. Medicaid billing, we started, Mr. Huckaluck, myself started doing that 8 years ago.
Probably at its worst number this year, as far as what's available.
But it helps.
It helps.
That's not action item.
No, I actually should.
It is an action item, but we haven't had motion yet.
And let me see.
It's on, I have it on printed, so.
It is?
Yeah, I've got
Oh, okay. What if it doesn't show up on
It doesn't show up on mine either.
All right. So yeah, it's an action
it.
item.
She put it in.
I'll move to accept the two new job descriptions for high school, middle school, administrative assistant and special education administrative assistant.
Second?
Okay, moving second, any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay, move on to 10.02, head of maintenance recommendation.
Okay, so recommending Alan Green as our head of maintenance, taking over for Steve McCollum June 5th, but hired on a partial contract from now until the end of the year.
I understand he's been job shadowing already.
Yeah.
Was the second choice of the search committee.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, this is the second choice. Yeah.
In doing the minutes, we hired or at least recommended approving the other guy last time.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. We had too much stuff.
Yeah.
I'd recommend the hiring of Alan Green as our as per committee for head of maintenance.
Second.
Okay, moving second, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, moves us on to 10.03, employment summer maintenance, something that we do every year.
Yeah, for the last, last 4 years, we've done 2 positions. And again, one of the places we cut was a position over the summer. So we're recommending 1 position over the summer instead of 2. We've hired 2 positions over the last 3 or 4 years. I have to look back on how long it's been, but I know it's been 3-4 years that we've always hired 2. We're gonna hire one. We don't have quite as many projects this year, and we believe that we can get away with one in lieu of two this year.
The, make a motion first.
Yeah.
I'd move to, as recommended by Steve McCollum, head of maintenance, to hire one full-time position, 30 to 40 hours.
Second.
Okay, we're moving second. Any discussion?
Dollar amount is 6,000. You make $15 an hour, 40 hours a week for. Is that right?
Where's this? Where are you
Up,
seeing
up
this?
above, it's,
Dollar amount is 6,000.
just may keep going up. Keeps going. Oh, no.
That may have been left from 2
Seems
years
low.
ago.
Maybe I'm wrong about that.
That's only for 3 months.
That's
So
probably
12 weeks,
12 weeks.
maybe that's it. Everybody's the math major. Just look through, that's a 2,000 a month or something.
Yeah,
No, that's right.
2,000 a month
That's right.
for full-time.
10 weeks.
Yeah, if it's 10 weeks, if it's 12
Six
weeks, it'd be
grand, that's right.
7,200, so, yeah. It's close. They work 10 weeks.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, move on to 10.04, graduation requirements for 24-25.
Nothing's changed in terms of graduation requirements for St. Ignatius School District 28.
I'll move to approve the existing graduation requirements as listed in public content for 25, 26 with no requested changes.
Second.
Okay, moving second, any discussion?
The only discussion was, and the only question is at the last paragraph. They're required to complete a senior project.
Yes.
Can that be, so you could do that in 3 years instead of 4? You could graduate in 3 years, right? Doesn't it tell me that up there?
I believe you could, and I believe that there's a separate section in board policy on early graduation. I'd have to look through that. That's board policy to be an early graduate. I believe it has to be approved by the board. And I do not believe it's 3 years. I believe it's 3.5 years, but I'd have to look, because we looked at that one probably 4 or 5 years ago, but that's board policy.
Yeah. So the senior project would have to be completed
Either way,
in the 3 years.
yeah.
Any other discussion?
Was it just a year ago that this might have been listed different in 2 different locations or something, but I bet you guys ironed that out as far as handbook, and I don't know what the whole issue was, but it was
The wording was different.
in 2 different
Yeah.
spots. Handbook versus.
Board policy versus, I hope we did.
Yeah.
I can only answer that it was a year ago, Stan.
Yeah, can you remember that conversation?
I do remember the conversation. I believe that was rectified between
Yeah, I bet they
the high school office. I'll check.
But,
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 10.05, sabbatical leave application. Michelle?
Sorry, I just making a note here for myself, make sure I will double check
yeah.
on that. Clean that up. Okay, so sabbatical, recommending Caitlin Shellman sabbatical leave for 25-26 under master agreement, Article 14, with all the provisions that apply to that. Again, we were waiting, kind of figure, trying to make sure we didn't have to make additional cuts. We're in a place where we feel confident that we do not need to make cuts. And once that was decided, it actually does help us for 1 year as we're trying to get to the decennial study where we hope the funding formula changes. We're buying time, and it actually does help our situation for a year to go without Spanish and art, picking it up a year from now and offering those same opportunities again. And an great opportunity for the Shellman on top of, I shouldn't just say, it's financial only, because there are some advantages to, although that's the gear I'm in right now is saving financially. So on top of that, there's a lot of other advantageous opportunities that include getting additional science endorsements that could help us, when we're looking for science teachers down the road. And it doesn't matter what position you're looking for these days, they're hard to fill. And it used to be special ed, math, science. Now it's every position. So having endorsements beyond what teachers have currently is always advantageous for us to be able to combine and put together pieces of different accreditations to continue to offer our students the opportunities they currently have.
I'll recommend approval of Caitlin Shellman's sabbatical leave for 2025-2026 school year under the master agreement, Article 14 with all provisions.
I'll second that.
Okay, we move second, any discussion?
If students want to continue on with their Spanish Digital Academy, is that what out there just?
Yeah. We'll offer, I believe we can do that through Montana Digital and Acellus, or just Montana Digital?
I don't know about Acellus, certainly Montana Digital Academy, and what I did write into, you may have seen into the sabbatical application is there is a possibility for me to apply and teach Spanish next year through MTDA, and then Ms. Redmond could actually plop our students right into my section of MTDA. So that could be a cool thing. It's a big if, because we don't know if they'll need Spanish teachers or how that would all work out. But either way, our students would have access to Spanish through MTDA next year.
And my daughter did that, and it was good.
It's a
Gotta
pretty
stay
strong
on
program.
that. It was positive.
So, Ms. Shellman, your goals and objectives have an or, right? There's a online Montana State University.
That's what I was just saying. So, yes, so there is, my goal is to obtain the online graduate certificate in science teaching and life science through Montana State, either way. But that program only requires 12 graduate credits. And the way our master agreement is worded is that you must be enrolled in either full-time study or other professionally advantageous activity. So if I didn't do the MTDA class, I would take what's considered full graduate credits, which is 9 each semester for a total of 18, which is beyond what their certificate requires, but would still be beneficial in terms of teaching later on in life sciences. Or if I was able to teach one class through MTDA, being the Spanish class that we just discussed, I could still take the 12 credits and also teach the MTDA. I don't want to overload myself, basically. But if I did teach through MTDA, they direct payments to the school. And so this for the teaching, which is usually passed directly onto the teacher if they're doing it outside of their contract hours. But then the school wouldn't need to pass that on to me because I'd be being paid through my sabbatical, therefore lowering the cost to the district. If that makes sense, does that make sense?
I caught it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bit convoluted.
So when will you decide what you want to do?
I need to apply to both things. So both are an application. I don't think there's going to be, I meet all the requirements for the graduate certificate program through MSU. But I haven't applied, having this up in the air. And I guess the more up in the air would be the MTDA, whether or not they need teachers of Spanish for next school year. Which they did reach out to me 2 years ago. I emailed them about my son's math class and they were like, oh, I see you're a Spanish teacher. Would you be interested in applying, kind of thing? And at the time I didn't.
Well, as happy as I am for your growth, I know as a school, and I mean all the way down to TKO, everything you've done, you will be greatly missed. And I know our students will greatly miss you because you have incorporated every single student in our school, basically. So the thing
It's
you've
been really
done
fun
will
feeling
be
that.
greatly missed. And but I'm happy
fun
for you,
fact.
and we'll look forward to the year after.
Well, thank you.
So.
Either option, when you decide on, you'll still be on the beaches of Costa Rica.
I suppose
Oh.
that would not be my first choice actually because it's really hot, but I am part of a partnership that feels different.
Cool.
Very nice. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? I wish you well.
Thank you.
Good luck with that, yeah.
Okay, on to 10.06, got some employments here.
Well, recommending approval of Haley Walchuk to move to full-time FTE high school English teacher from half-time English teacher this year to full-time English next year. And you may wonder, well, that costs more money. It really does actually save us money in terms of Gear Up being funded again, giving us the opportunity to fund another teacher that's been approved for Gear Up, doing Gear Up with some teaching, 2/7 teaching, and running Gear Up, which would fund the majority of her salary, giving us the ability to fund Haley Walchuk at a full FTE, which thinking, well, that's costing more money because of who we're paying out of what fund, it's actually saving us money. So it isn't costing us more to increase a half because of what we're getting from Europe.
Because we're already paying one full-time, but half of that is a higher salary.
Right.
I'll recommend approving Haley Walchuk to move to one full FTE high school English from 0.5 English teacher.
Second.
Okay, we move second, any discussion?
So will this allow more offerings, or so will they be used some in the middle school as well as the high school?
Right, I think that's the plan. What's the extra 2/7 will go to support title, right? Middle school or high school?
Well, we haven't done a schedule for next year yet.
Okay.
That's still in the works. A little early for that.
We do have 2 additional sections of English to offer. And we're not completely sure as to where that is yet.
Yeah.
Middle school or high school.
Enrollment, numbers, middle school, high school, moving into next year, all not finalized yet.
I have to say, I walked into Miss Keith's room a couple, 3 weeks ago, and I looked around and said, "You guys have a teacher here today?" And I thought, man, I'm getting old. Yeah, I hear this little voice, I'm the teacher.
Okay, any other discussion?
She's amazing for being 12.
Yeah. Very sweet. All right, all those in favor? on to 10.07 employment, Ms. Humphrey.
So yes, recommend the continuance of halftime homeschool coordinator and special ed consultant for next year for Miss Humphrey, who really does above and beyond in a lot of areas, mainly helping us with a lot of gaps that she fills, and I know works above and beyond the halftime, but she's and depending on where we're at with special ed, may end up helping us there as well. I'm not sure yet. So, but at minimum, we would like to continue with the homeschool coordinator and special ed consultant.
I'll recommend Valerie Embry for find home to school coordinator and special education consultant. The 2025-2026 school year, contract amount $30,000.
Second.
Okay, moving second, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 10.08 employment for Ms. Johnson.
School nurse, asking again for the same opportunity we were able to offer this year, which is essentially 1 to 2 days a week, 52 total days for a part-time school nurse, which hopefully if Logan Health comes through, she will also be helping with Logan Health with their 1 day. So haven't heard a whole lot from them since the last time they were here, so hoping that's still moving forward.
Does she prefer Johnson or Walker? We have both listed, so I'm just curious.
It should be Walker, sorry.
Recommend the hiring of Teresa Walker as part-time school nurse position for 52 days a year at $13,500.
I'll second that.
Okay, moving second, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 10.09 employment, Mr. Bauer.
Recommend moving Chase Bauer from elementary title to the open high school, middle school PE position. Interview was complete, and recommendation for Mr. Hendrickson and the interview committee recommends Mr. Bauer to high school, middle school PE.
I'll recommend moving Chase Bauer from elementary title to the open high school, middle school PE position. Interview is complete and recommendation for Mr. Hendrickson.
Second.
Okay, then moving second, any discussion?
Now, will this title position then be one that's not here? Because I was kind of started with the extra money.
Yeah, we've had it. It's actually, it's been around prior to ESSER. But again, we're looking at places that we don't have to cut people. And next year class sizes are lower in the elementary. So we believe we can still offer the title that is needed with the smaller class sizes that we have in the elementary.
Part of my concern is about the, just the presentation of the position. When I think of PE, I think of PE/health. I know if I look back on our district job descriptions, I think it was December 17th when we got the, that's the only place that it's listed as a PE health position. And I'd like to see us, and if I look at the job announcement, it says PE, there's no mention of health. I would really like to make sure that we sort of emphasize that. There's a lot to that. There's, a lot of stuff that kids need to know about, need to talk about. Suicide, depression, heart disease, dementia. It's more to it than just what we think of as basic PE, and that's my concern about this particular position, is that we make sure we emphasize that part of the curriculum.
And it's listed on the API website, and I will double check that as just a PE position, but PE includes 2 years of health, which is mandatory by the state. So every student has to have 2 years of health with their 9th and 10th grade PE. So it is encompassed in the position and a requirement for every student.
Yeah, I think it lists us on the district job description, but I just haven't seen it anywhere else in our discussion. Anyway, that's my concern, that we.
Yeah, because at the university level, what's it listed in their catalog, like, as far as the degree and what? A degree in
Physical education.
I don't know,
Physical.
health and human performance, a different degree. I believe it's just physical education. We do have a
I can answer this
graduate.
question.
Health
I'm
and-
certified health and physical education
It's health
teacher.
first, right? Yeah.
I have a college degree in health and physical education. I'm certified to teach K through 12 health and physical education. At the time when I got it in Montana, it was health enhancement. So that encompassed PE. They've changed it all now to just physical education, and health is encompassed in that. So it's an all-encompassing thing, but it's a specific health and PE degree, but you can get an endorsement to teach health and PE now.
I have a son with a health and human performance degree, and it's useless.
Yes,
I know a couple of them.
all I can teach is health and PE, so it's not useless.
I can confirm that.
Yes. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Bauer, since you're here, can I ask you, it says here you have 6 classes to complete this degree in time. Like, what is your timeline?
I got my degree plan from University of Montana Western, and it will be concluded at the spring of 2026, which is prior to the 2027 deadline, which I must meet just based off the current provisional license that I'm holding.
Yeah, no, it says it'll be done in time. I just didn't know what your timeline was.
Yeah, spring of 26.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bowers, do you have a current certificate, or is it provisional?
It is in the works to being a provisional. I've already spoke with Luke Lewis at UMW this morning, actually, and they're just waiting on my application, which I've already completed, to essentially show up in the system so they can green light everything.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay. All right, 10.10 summer weight room supervisor.
Recommend the hiring of Chase Bauer as a summer weight room supervisor for the summer 2025.
I'm going to recommend the hiring of Chase Bowers as the summer weight room supervisor for summer 2025.
Second.
Okay, we move second. Any discussion? Will we have posted hours for that? Is that twice a day or what?
I
What's up?
haven't gotten that far yet, to be honest. I would like to accommodate as many as possible.
Okay.
Without spending
All day?
12, 15 hours in the gym all day. Much as fun as that might be, it's not really what I want to do also, but
Try to set up some kind of a
yeah, I
schedule.
definitely want to get something going where either morning or evening or both, just kind of see what works for the majority, I suppose.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, any other questions, discussion? All those in favor? Okay, 10.11 renewal of certified contracts.
Recommending the approval of contract renewal for the following certified staff for the 25-26 school year. I hope we have it. Did you guys have a chance to double check that list? I hope we've got everybody on there. If we're missing someone, we'll have to do that next month. But with the approval this evening, then the letters of intent will go out tomorrow. Every teacher on this list will have 20 days to sign the letter of intent, return it to the district office, And I'm just saying that as emphasis, get the word out. 20 days is 20 days. And if we don't have the letter of renewal, they are essentially no longer our employees. So I know that's led to some issues in the past, but we will definitely reiterate that when we send the letter of intent out for all teachers, knowing they have 20 days and it must be signed. So,
I'll recommend to approve the contract renewal of the following certified staff for the 25-26 school year.
I'll second it.
Okay, then move to second, any discussion?
So it'll be cross-checked for accuracy, because I can't do it this way.
I tried the best I could, and I'm hoping that there's multiple other eyes on it as well, including principals.
Okay, so somebody who, in the event somebody was left off, the 20-day period would start when they're notified.
And not other years and other districts, I know kind of list, to me, the offered your fourth, you're switching from non-tenured to tenured, it's kind of a special, important deal, and I think it should be celebrated a little bit if it's recommended. But, and also scrutinized a little bit, because just a thought on, and I think other years we listed.
we did list the non-tenured and tenured.
But as far as
Which ones are transitioning?
transition.
We don't have that. We do have that. I know you requested which ones were tenured, non-tenured.
I think in that year you might have did what
I don't think we have
number of
anything. Yeah, I guess we have-
contracts was offered, like the fourth or.
Is that what you're asking, Stan? Which ones are getting fourth year?
Yeah, just because to me it's a big deal. It should be celebrated if that person has earned that fourth contract, because being a tenured teacher should be a pat on the back if they deserve it, and if they don't deserve it,
Principals usually do that in the
on top.
the final eval meeting. So the principals usually do that in the final eval meeting with that person.
Yeah, but just kind of to let
Yeah.
us all know that this is the
Like this is their first year of being
first year
tenured.
offered.
We can asterisk that
Asterisk.
And
so
it's,
yeah.
not a huge
and make it.
deal. I mean, they're recommended, so you know that you hope they wouldn't be just.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 10.12, volunteer coaching for softball and looks like track.
Jump back up. All right, so recommending the approval of volunteer coaches, 25 spring sports, Jeff Evans softball, Katie McDonald softball, Janelle McDonald softball, and Samantha Hammond track and field. Volunteers for spring sports.
I'll recommend the approval of the following volunteer coaches for the 2025 spring sports. Jeff Evans for softball volunteer coach, Catherine McDonald for softball volunteer coach, Janelle McDonald for softball volunteer coach, and Samantha Hammond, high school track and field volunteer coach.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
I speak on it every time because it's just the board member as a coach, even though it's volunteer. I'm a big chain of the command, and it kind of throws a wrench into that chain. And I know you've been doing it for a lot of years. The head coach is fine with it and whatnot, but that's just a concern.
Okay.
It wouldn't be consistent.
If I
Yeah.
back up. Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? I probably can't abstain, can I? But I mean, we have
Stand
to.
voting, so you go 2-0.
Okay, so I'll abstain just because. I didn't know if we had to have three, so. Second.
We are in a majority with it.
Okay. All right, that moves us
All right.
on to principal annual Q&A. Let's see. I've determined that a quorum is present. Pursuant to do 2-3-203 MCA, I've determined that the individual rights to privacy outweighs the public's right to know, and I declare the meeting closed at 8:28.
We got 8:28.
So who's up first? We'll have everybody leave except for, who we have here? Do we have no one?
Looks like Miss.
Ladies first.
Ladies first, absolutely.
Thank you. And before we keep going, we are now click because we gotta go anyway. Yeah, it is. There is.
Cheat off Mary.
Important
Mary
part,
wasn't here, let me down.
Yeah, sorry, I should have said something, yeah. You wanna look at those?
No,
Okay.
I'm good. I'll call
Check it.
somebody and,
I could even email it to you.
yeah, I just need to get in executive.
Let's
Plenty
see.
other times I need to be in there, so.
Back to 10.14.
Okay, right, open it back up.
We opened it back up. Okay,
9:18.
18.
Okay, so we will go to 10.14. Miss Moore renewal.
I'll recommend the renewal of Chantel Moore, Principal MA Step 4, 2025-2026 school year, as per salary schedule and any commensurate equivalent to certified negotiation.
Last second.
Okay, been moved and seconded, and we have no discussion since it was closed session, so.
I can't discuss this.
We could discuss the contract part of it, just
Okay.
not the personnel part, right?
Right.
Right, my only discussion would be to amend this to say, salary to be determined after completion of certified negotiation.
Would that mean to stay in line with certified negotiation outcomes? Commensurate based on
Well, it's the commensurate part
the
of it
commensurate part.
that bothers me.
Okay.
So, for example, and I'm just making this up because I don't know where negotiations are going, but 2% increase and a 2% increase with language are two different things in my mind. That language could possibly be a cost to teachers. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm just writing things down.
Yeah. You have to lay it out for me. So commensurate is just, they get a 2% on their salary schedule. The principals get 2% on their schedule.
Right.
So
My question is, if they give up language, then that's not commensurate anymore.
if they give up language,
See what I'm saying?
or they get language.
Could
So
go
you
either
can
way.
add- you
Could
can
go
add
either
to the
way.
principal, yeah.
Could go either way. But generally, language is based on wages or insurance or description of duties, duty day. And so that's either a cost to the district or a cost to the teachers, which would make 2% commensurate. See what I'm saying? If we both get 2%, but I have to give up some of my language and he doesn't, then that's not commensurate.
In your opinion
In my opinion,
of the negotiation.
Not a negotiation, in my opinion, of the definition of commensurate.
Gotcha. With the language as you requested, which amended be determined after certified negotiation outcome, then would you circle back? I guess is what we need to
So,
figure out at this
yeah,
time.
no, so here's what I would do. And again, this stars thing makes it even more complicated. I think you can think about how this.
Yeah, or just about every other contract is tied with the word commensurate. So this is renegotiate, well, it wouldn't be renegotiating, but some you've already approved with commensurate. And now some without commensurate would have to be revisited. So I don't know,
Which
have we
ones are
done,
Oh, we approved, so we
So
approved yours with commensurate?
Yeah,
I don't believe we have.
We just did.
I had a 2 years. Yeah, mine's 2 years. Mine's already set.
Right. In the past, we've done, everything we've done has been commensurate over the years.
Right.
But I'm
right.
saying it's
But
not
it's not
just,
commensurate.
it's not just mine, it's also, like, there's many more contracts that have the commensurate language. So
Such as,
you've got the athletic director, head of maintenance, the technology,
Yeah.
Adam Messina, I don't know who else.
Well, Rosita is tied into the classifieds, but then that's always kind of also added in as, like, hey, we offered this, so. Practice that goes back a long ways. But
No, I get how long it goes
I
back.
guess
Mine is-
with the language, and I will go on to that, you'd have to come up with, are we renegotiating later or just approving as steps and lanes, or what are we looking at for?
Oh, what I'd be looking at is, so it would read, recommend the renewal of Chantel Moore principal on the step 4, 2025-2026 school year. Salary to be determined after the completion of negotiation. Certified negotiation.
To be determined. So then if it is a 2%, then would they get a 2% or would it be renegotiated with the board? That's the question I have.
What would be renegotiated?
If with that language, if the negotiation is approved at 2%, would then that language give the principal the 2%?
So everyone would
Increase?
negotiate individually. It's
No.
a very you would. If you don't give commensurate to both of them tonight, they have the opportunity to come negotiate with the board. It's a very pro-union stance.
Pro-union.
Your stance is very pro-union. So everybody individually now has to negotiate with the board individually. If it's not commensurate, I'm just saying that's what we're opening up. Either commensurate or each person has their ability to negotiate their own.
My
salary.
question, more so than worried about language, would be, is it 2% or is it like 2% of base? So the same dollar amount gonna be the same? Or so if somebody's getting a very high salary, 2% of a high salary is gonna be a high raise.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of question that can.
The way that the practice has been rolled into the salary scales, that it's 2% of the base, and then all of that calculates itself down.
So many have a salary schedule that have set up for so you go right into their salary schedule, the commensurate for 2% goes right into the other 2% into salary schedule. Some are individual already. Mine's individual. Steve McCollum was always individual. Yours
I'm on a
schedule?
salary schedule now.
So I think there's probably
Jesse's on a salary schedule.
only,
Jesse's on a salary schedule.
yeah, there's only 2 that are not on a salary schedule. And 2
So
that
they're
can't.
getting a 2% of what they're currently making.
This is all hypothetically,
Yeah.
the number 2% is out
It's
there.
right there.
Yeah,
Thank
no.
you, like, this is
Just for
being recorded.
ease of
We're
math.
using an
Yeah.
easy number, thank you. I'm writing notes.
Let's do 1%.
So, yeah, now you said that, that's my stance, right?
But
No,
my point would be, let's say if somebody's negotiating and 2% is offered, but we negotiate, let's say 1.5% and some insurance. This is an option that's happened in the past.
Mhm.
Would the commensurate increase would be 1.5%
Plus the insurance.
plus the. that would-
They pay for insurance as well.
Right. Let's say, it was 2% and, I had to, give up language about, well, let's use, you remember the old superintendent will recommend or that language in there?
There's been a lot of them.
Yeah.
Just
I know,
cause,
that's
was that,
good.
Just cause.
was that the key words that I remember from the
Yeah, I can't even
Old
remember
days.
how it went. It was
Just
been a long
cause?
time.
Yeah, I
But,
can't remember.
but that's a sacrifice.
Well, yeah, that was just, I mean, that was just common sense.
Yeah.
You were giving tenure, which you felt should be celebrated the first year. That was just language of common sense. The just cause, if that's the one you're bringing up, I don't know.
I just use it as verbiage, I'm sorry.
That one,
Yeah.
just cause was you were tenured the second you were hired.
But it's a, yeah, this is, maybe it's a little bit more than I'm thinking about, but it's a cost to teach it, right? I don't get 2% if I don't agree with that language. Right?
Yeah, they usually don't give that up without, I mean, sometimes language costs the district on the other end, so are you going to give, when it helps the union, are you going to give a higher increase?
It's possible.
And that's.
Yeah, what I'm saying
that's what
is,
we need to kind of.
and determine what, it's impossible for me to determine what commensurate is right now. Because I don't know what the outcome is gonna be.
So I guess what the choice would be then, you're gonna have to negotiate individually with
Each principal.
all,
Well,
everything,
right.
not a principal, you're gonna have to do it with.
Can I ask Mr. Marchand this? With your proposed language, do you feel that then ties that number to the increase, or are you looking for the opportunity to renegotiate? 'Cause I think that's what we're gonna walk away from.
Not looking for the opportunity to renegotiate. All I'm
Renegotiate
saying is
after
that
the-
it's not commensurate.
Okay,
Until
and
I
that's
know
kind of
it
what I'm trying to clear up right now, versus using the terminology commensurate. Is it then by changing the language, still trying to tie that negotiated amount to the principals or whoever's contracts, just using different language?
I think I'm following you there.
Changing the terminology.
What I'm saying is, if the negotiations ended at 2%, nobody gave up any language, it was just 2%, then I would award that 2% to every,
And if not,
and if not, then we'd have to think of a figure that we would,
and in that process, sometimes with them going down the road, would our principals accept that? as-
No, I mean, you
Wait,
have,
and so
you would
that-
have
that's
to
kind of what we're-
renegotiate with each, and which is fine, and we can do that, but you're looking at renegotiating. My only point is taking commensurate out opens up to not settling on what they're agreeing to. And they're gonna come in, and they have the opportunity to come in and negotiate with the board each individually. I mean, and that's, you're opening the doors
And
to,
then that opens the door for negotiations and then, so it could have a very adverse effect also. In the way I look at it, because, looking at negotiations, it could definitely backfire too.
backfire in what's new.
Well, just say one of the principals came in and they wanted the 3.5% and we agreed to it. Well, you don't think the teachers union's gonna want 3.5%?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like,
I can see
this
going
way,
either
everybody's, I get it that they're negotiating pretty much for everybody, but it's also a blanket for everybody as well.
levels the playing field.
Exactly. As best as you can.
My only warning is it opens it up to not settling with the principals this evening, renewing them as a principal, but then if teachers get 0, they have the opportunity to come in and negotiate. Everybody has the opportunity, and you're gonna have to do that individually because it's no longer a universal commensurate. It is now, let's negotiate the principal salary schedule, your salary schedule, the tech director's salary schedule. Everybody right now is commensurate. But if you take it away from one, you're now negotiating with every individual, as well as classified.
And you brought up language. Very seldom is language ever, they just don't give it up.
Boy, I'd have to go back and look at my records about that. 'Cause I think.
They've come up, but most of it's usually to clean the language out.
So would a commensurate increase apply to classified staff?
No,
Why not?
they're at will employees. So there's salary schedules. And some salary schedules we've adjusted, like paras, we increased them to try to get up to 15 a couple years ago. We've adjusted those. They all also have a salary schedule, but they are at will employees. They don't have a
They don't have a
union.
negotiator.
Yes.
They don't have a language to pay for their increase. That's the point I'm making.
Or they could, I don't know, they're at will employees. They don't have a master.
Right, they don't have language to pay.
There's
for
only
their
one master.
increase, so they don't get the commensurate.
But the difference is, these guys have the ability to come in and negotiate, those employees do not.
Right, they don't have the.
I wonder if this statewide is standard practice among districts, the commensurate part.
It's really wide open. I mean, how every district is different. Some use salary schedules like we do, and some are completely just pick and choose and individual. And some places there's unions for the classified. Some places there's, salary schedule. Some places there isn't. It's very, I mean, you wouldn't find a universal master agreement or a universal salary matrix or even a practice universal for the state of Montana. It's pretty wide open.
So by saying salary will be determined at the conclusion of negotiations, that allows every administrative team member to negotiate independently. Why is that?
This is not tied to negotiate. I mean, if it's
It's
not
not
commensurate,
commensurate.
it's not tied.
Now you haven't settled with them. Right
There's
now,
no number then.
yeah, there's no number. You're gonna have to, are you going to be commensurate? Are you not going to be? Are you gonna give more? Are you gonna give less? I mean, it opens it up to,
We couldn't do that to every administrative team member,
you would have to, yeah.
and but once, right? So,
Every year.
okay.
The other problem is you're gonna have to wait till teacher negotiations are done unless you want to do them individually, and then if you do that, you're gonna have to match. Whatever you give one person, you're gonna have to at least match no less. I mean, I guess that's not, I mean, you don't, who's gonna negotiate less? Yeah. If I give you 5%, you think I'm gonna come in and say, oh, I only want 3%?
But if you give me 5% and ask me for insurance money,
They get insurance money as well.
this year, maybe,
No, I mean, whoever's commensurate is commensurate. If you give $25 more for insurance, they get $25 more for insurance. It's the same.
It's just equal.
Commensurate is commensurate, insurance and salary.
For me, if we went with your language, Mr. Marchant, I think then we would be offering them steps and lanes at this point right now with, I think that's the questions that I'm gonna get, is like, what is my contract? Dependent on union or SIFT, is that what we're calling it now? SIFT
they would.
negotiations.
All your other
but
folks wouldn't.
But
be
that
so.
doesn't mean it's gonna match, right? And so that, those are just questions that I'm trying to figure out how we would respond to. When am I gonna get to know that number? What is my number gonna be? Do I need to look for a position that has a number that's quantified? Those types of things. So that's why I'm trying to clear up, like, with the language as is and pushing it to another date, like, is there other language we wanna add to that, or is that the process that would be in place? That's where I'm trying to make sure we get down to what we want.
right, no, I'm with you. And, yeah, I just don't see that connection, to be honest with you. I don't see why. I mean, we're gonna have to wait till the end of negotiations for teachers to find out what their salary will be.
Yeah.
But I need to tell administrators tonight that it will be the same as whatever the teachers get.
No, that's all I'm trying to hammer out is what, if you decide to amend this, I just want to make sure that if that's it, then
And they won't know until after negotiations
Yeah.
either.
And then they would start negotiating.
The,
If you don't have commensurate, you're not settling, unless you're gonna give them zero.
right, that's what I mean, you're gonna open the door for everybody to come in. And are they gonna wait till after the negotiations to come in, or are they gonna come in and say, I want this percent, or you know, I mean, it's,
Or in the June or May board meeting, we give a percent across the board. Teachers got 2, administrators get 2.
that's
Commensurate.
and that's what we're doing
reserve
right
the
now.
right.
It is if there's no language. I argue that if somebody has to give something up one way or the other, then it's not commensurate.
My other issue in the past was thinking that all the certified are dues paying members, and some of these, like the principals, don't pay dues. To me, that bargaining unit, and they're at the table fighting to get that 2%. And then all of a sudden, all the people that aren't contributing the dues to the organization, just kind of on the coattails, gets the 2% as well. And I don't know if that's quite right.
Right, but I mean,
And plus
they're
they're-
gonna come in and ask for the same thing.
And
So it really doesn't matter who's negotiating.
yeah,
They're still gonna do the negotiating, and they're still gonna come in and ask for the same amount. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't. I can't answer for them, but would you?
No,
You'd
I
ask
know what I'm
for the
saying?
same amount.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with the same amount. I don't.
Right.
Problem is
Language is your.
a different amount. It just is.
And what's been either sacrificed or
Could be different for you, could be plus or minus either way. I just don't know what that language is going to be, particularly in this very, I think, confusing sort of negotiating here. And, my thoughts
So
are.
could you just take out the word commensurate? I mean, what?
I think that's what you have
I was just
offered
saying,
an amended to be determined after certified negotiation outcome. Instead of commensurate, which would then make that possibly commensurate, or possibly.
Well,
or
it's-
that.
it's
Well, why can't you just say
commensurate.
as per salary schedule equivalent to certified negotiating outcome? Why can't you just
Same
take?
thing. Saying the same thing. Now we're right back to just saying the same thing with a different word.
Yeah.
That's what commensurate means.
Yeah, no, I know.
So taking commensurate out means you haven't settled with them tonight.
Right.
You're telling them they're not going to get what the union gets, and they will have to negotiate after the union settles.
Right. No, I know. Yeah.
No, that's not what I'm telling you.
That's what will happen.
That was what exactly what happened.
Settle that with them after the negotiation.
That's what you said.
Right.
So you're not settling with them tonight.
No,
That's what I'm
that
making
would be
clear.
my, yeah, my point is not settled.
Okay.
I'm not sure that opens that up to a bunch of individual.
Most surely does.
Everybody, okay. If you don't do commensurate, which is a blanket to all these other positions, every one of them is gonna have to come back in individually. And,
We're not-
and basically
we're not-
ask for the same thing.
You're not putting a number to it. You're saying zero, they don't get a raise.
Well, they get their
So
steps.
on,
That part's
Yeah.
negotiated.
at the May board meeting, we'll know what,
Maybe.
maybe.
I think we want to take care of stars. If stars is,
It's gotta
we would
be.
have to have a.
That could be an MOU. We may not,
That's-
we may not.
Yeah.
MOU works,
That's a timeline.
MOU
I
works,
think.
but there'll be an agreement
Well,
by the May board.
we hope, at least for that part. For stars, there has to be an MOU.
or settle negotiations with. All I'm saying is, we wait to see what that is. If it's 2%, there's no language, we give 2% to the administrative staff.
But that has to be negotiated. Because right now you're saying there's no number commensurate, so now it's up to
Because I don't
them.
know what the number is.
So so they're negotiating. That's what I'm saying. What we're going down the road of, you can't just say we're going to maybe and have them accept that.
We're going to maybe what? I'm not saying that we're gonna maybe do anything. We'll determine it at the end of the negotiation.
So you will negotiate with all other salary schedules at the end of negotiations.
Right now, Mr. Marchant, you are at a motion and a second, and then if you would like that, you would need to motion to amend. Stan, does that track as far as this
Yeah.
conversation goes?
Because I've always been against commensurate myself. I thought you guys were actually negotiating your own raise, and that kind of struck me as wrong.
Mine's already
Yeah,
set.
I mean,
I don't care.
Yeah.
But if I, as a principal right now, I would be concerned. I were a principal sitting here right now, and you could ask them, but I would be very much against agreeing to not agree. It's up to them. I mean, what you're gonna have to do now is negotiate with each group individually.
I personally felt tied to whatever number was going out to the union because it showed neither one way or the other which way that leaned, right? I felt that by using that language, I was taking myself out of that type of situation where I would ask for more or less based on giving the financial numbers over. I thought it was kind of a transparent way of.
Because you kind of decided, yeah, we can do that.
Well, I don't decide, you negotiate, I do give the financials out. And so if I came back afterwards and said, well, I want a 4%, I would think that it would look bad compared to trying to tie myself to what that outcome was. So that's personally for me to be transparent and not guide one way or the other. Here's your financial numbers. This is how they fit in and would be as part of that. I feel like I would like stay the same.
And it is transparent, I agree with that. It just, it also sidesteps the risk that teachers have to take.
Correct. And I would say that I have to stand in front of you every year and ask for three of you to say yes.
The problem is, no one's gonna come in and negotiate until negotiations are over. So we gotta move everybody's contract.
So in the
After
process,
negotiations, I mean, why else?
No one
You wouldn't be able to do anything until after negotiations.
right. In the process, Mr. Marchant, if you are motioning that and you have your language, you would need to motion to amend it to X. And I would definitely mark down the time and write it verbatim so that I have all of that positively identified.
Well, it's, I do have a strong concern about this. I'm just trying to decide whether it's worth trying right now. Yeah, I do strongly disagree with the commensurate language since it's not commensurate, or it cannot, potential for it not being commensurate.
Either way,
Yeah, either way.
I mean, you could end up,
Absolutely.
I'm a high school, middle school principal, I'm gonna come in and say, I don't have a 90-minute prep. I have two schools that used to have two principals. I would, that's it's an opportunity. I mean, and then you're gonna end up maybe not settling. I just see, I think this one through, but I would not recommend going down individually negotiating with every person. But that's entirely up to the board and not my decision. So it's up to you guys. They may want the opportunity. They may not like it. They may not like what the unions do. You know, I don't know.
How would they know? Since we don't know.
No one knows.
Right.
So where are we at on?
So we are unable to wait till we do know.
It's really, we either entertain a vote or we entertain an amendment to the motion. Is where we're at.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded, right? Do we have any other discussion on it? So we could take a vote, and if it dies in the vote, then
Well, then what we do is we do not approve Mrs. Moore's contract. That's where we're at. If we move in seconds on this and do not vote for the recommendation, we're recommending the renewal of Mrs. Moore. So if you decide not to vote for this because of the wording, then you would not be voting for it.
right?
And I would strongly recommend not renewing the principal's contract. If you're gonna non-renew someone, we better have had our
Yeah,
ducks
no.
lined up a lot more before right now. This
Yeah.
should have been worked out way, right? Do not non-renew the principal
Mr.
right now. I'm strongly recommending that as a really, and I hope the video's still on, bad idea.
I don't think we were even
Mr.
considering that
Huckleluck's,
myself.
Mr. Huckleluck's explanation there says, if we voted down the recommendation as it stands. that's
As it's been motioned and
My
seconded,
amendment
yes.
would in fact approve the renewal of this.
Yes,
contract.
but we would need an amendment. We either
But we
vote on it
wait till
as
the-
is, or we need to motion to amend it to your language.
You're-
And I believe that if you're in the.
You gotta vote on it first, though, because it's already been moved and seconded, right?
No,
This, during a discussion, you can amend it.
yes.
Alrighty, what
You
the
gotta
heck?
separate the two.
Okay, I'm gonna write this down,
Just gonna go
I
ahead and
really
do it.
wanna get this.
I'm gonna recommend the renewal of Chantel Moore, principal, MA step 4, 2025 to 2026 school year.
Period, okay?
It's already be determined at the conclusion of certified negotiation of
Salary to be determined at conclusion of certified negotiated
negotiation.
outcomes, certified. Okay. I'm just gonna timestamp that so I can go back and. Just wanna make sure I got that for verbatim when I write the minutes, but I have recommend the renewal of Chantel Moore, Principal MA, Step 4, 25-26 school year as per 25-26 school year period. Salary to be determined at conclusion of certified negotiation outcomes. Period. Okay.
Second that amendment.
Stan Delaney, seconds. You guys gonna make me do my minutes tonight?
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Stan, Tim?
Yep.
Jeff?
No, I like the games, or just simpler.
Okay. Now you've done that for one.
Yep.
We're going to have to determine, are we gonna do this in
Okay.
Well, if you don't.
I'm done.
Here we go.
Exactly what I would do.
Okay.
So I'm gonna recommend the renewal of Sean Hendrickson, MA step 14, 2025-2026 school year.
Period.
Nope,
Okay.
as per salary schedule and any commensurate equivalent to certain certified.
No, you can't say that.
Why not?
Well,
You took him
he's
in for
gonna
the
go
last one.
into.
I took it out of the last one, yeah. but we're gonna just, I'm just gonna amend.
Oh, you're reading it as
Yeah,
is.
so he's
Okay.
gonna go, we're gonna get a second, we're gonna go to discussion.
Gotcha.
I'll second that.
Okay, Stan Maloney seconded.
Okay, then moving second in discussion.
I'd like to amend the
Okay, sorry.
recommended action. Recommend the renewal of Sean Hendrickson in the step 14, 2025 to 2026 school year period. Salary to be determined at the conclusion of certified negotiation outcomes.
I'll second that amendment.
Okay, we're moving second in discussion. All those in favor? Okay, all nay on that one. All right, so those two are done, so now we move on to reports. 11.01 enrollment. Sorry. We,
Looking better.
middle school's huge, huh?
Middle school's huge, yeah.
Yeah, if you look at them, you're looking at small freshman, small senior. So next year, when you roll senior out, you roll 8th grade in, which is one of the bigger ones. You see a bump in high school, and you also see a bump coming in from into the 6th grade, which hopefully will show us an increase.
So 6th grade or 5th grade is bigger than 8th grade.
No, but we go from 7 through 12, we might see
Oh.
an increase in overall enrollment
Gotcha.
for 7 through 12 or the high school funding. So
Gotcha.
still feeling that one out, but yeah, losing a small class at the end and bringing one big class is useful. In that way.
That's promising. And that's not Harmony's kids, that's physical students, or is that?
That
everybody?
includes all of them.
Everybody.
That includes everybody.
Dang it. Okay, all right, we'll move on to 11.02 administrative leadership reports. Ms. Shulman's not here, so I don't think she said she didn't have anything to add, right? Mr. Hall, you got anything to add to your?
I hope so. So, point one, nothing's changed. Point two, nothing's changed. Point three, the banquet I moved to this Thursday at 6:30 for multiple reasons. Spring sports. Softball's still the same. I know you've got one more now. Eighth grader from Charlotte was approved tonight at their board meeting, so looks like there'll be 26 for softball.
I think she was already counted,
Oh, she was?
yeah, on the roster, because
Oh, was she?
we have to keep attendance.
All right, scratch that. 25 girls then. 6 of them are 6 or 7 now, 8th graders. She was on the roster as an 8th grader, right? Yeah, so 6 8th graders. Baseball, there's 25 on the roster as we speak. 11 of them from Harley and Charlo. I don't know the split between those two.
One homeschool.
Huh?
One homeschool.
I didn't take into account the homeschool kids, but yes.
We're counting them. We get 1/8 of A and B. So
Right.
nice.
So,
I hear about it. We're gonna mark them down.
high school track, there's 17, 1 8th grader who's homeschooled as well.
Yes. So that one's on the books, so I should be able to catch that one. I'm just gonna remember that.
High school tennis, there's 19, 9 girls, 10 boys, 3 8th graders. Middle school track and field is 35. 10 from 6th grade, 11 7th graders, 14 8th graders. Middle school track is 18, 5 6th graders, 8 7th graders, and 5 8th graders. Point 5. I'm still waiting to hear back from MHSA. Like I said, though, if I don't hear from them by the 21st, I'll reach out to them. And
What was that for? What were you, MHSA?
for the co-op,
Oh,
the approval of the co-ops.
oh,
But because baseball's first game is on the 25th, I want to make sure that the co-op's actually approved before the Charlotte kids participate. And the last point, I did reach out and then heard back and wasn't aware that they had already paid, so I think I haven't double checked with Adam, but I believe based on her email that they're all
I gotta
square right
process
now.
it again. I think so. Sarah never responded back. We were walking over to the Senate when I checked my email the first time, so I think that I didn't get a chance to circle back to it. I believe we're good outside of the one payment for this year. So
Yeah, I mean, she provided a payment date and a check number, I guess, so I think we're all caught up from past due stuff, and I believe part of that was for cross-country for this year.
Yeah.
So then we would just, as the new co-op agreement states, that everything gets revisited and re-signed at the end of the school year. And then that's when I will send an invoice for, it will be for wrestling, baseball, and softball this year. That's it, unless there's any questions.
good. Thank you. Check, Mr. Stowe, do you have a question, Adam?
no, I was pointing to the next one.
Oh, Mr. Nesper, you got anything to add to yours? Yep. Is there any questions for Mr. Nesper? Yeah, no, good. Sean, Mr. Henderson, you got anything to add to yours?
No. Unless you have questions.
Any other questions for him? Ms. Moore is gone, we let her go, so we're on to you, Mr. Sergeant, for the district.
Only thing I have is the change to the facility walkthrough to March 27th at 7:30. We have negotiations on Friday, so we won't be able to do the walkthrough on the 21st. So let's shoot for March 27th at 7:30. I believe it's a Thursday.
I got that down. That's the buildings and ground.
Yeah, I think they already got that.
Yeah, I think so too. And then negotiations, is that us?
Yeah, it's,
I mean, we call that?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, next Thursday, yeah, 27th. Okay. Okay, anything else?
Real quickly, I did notice on the certified rehire, we're missing the NAS teacher. I might be wrong about this. And then maybe Mr. Nesper can help me out. I received a survey about spring break. Is that, do we know who that went to? Is that just
Calendar committee.
calendar?
It does appear she's missing. I do know, however, that she is paid through Aware Grants, but I believe we still have a contract for her.
Yeah, she should have been on that.
She's paid directly through Aware Grant, but it is in a reimbursement status. So, yeah, I believe that that problem, she doesn't even get it. So we can.
And so I would notice.
Each month.
I was trying to go through every room and I'm like.
Yeah, I know, it's hard to.
So I'll make a note of her as far as that. I can see where the confusion comes from because of her funding coming from CSKT. So.
I just have one thought, and I think Mr. Marchart and I had the meeting with the Federation at the end. I was like, now what do you want us to do with this information? And I was, do we share it with the administrator? No, just share it with your other board members. But we really never, ever have a time to ever give a committee report. And that one week or that month that Olson was kind of bail on the agreement, I went to their agenda and right at a certain point, and all the committees were listed, but I didn't know if there was a way in the past that you've had, because every month, not every committee would have something to report, but it'd be nice to share some highlights of some of the meetings, like even like walk through or, and just, I don't know if we'd want it in writing in the board packet so you could preview it, so we didn't have any surprises, or how we'd go about it, but just the time for committee.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go through, I mean, what time is it now?
Yeah, that's what,
I mean,
Huh?
that's what's up with that.
Every committee,
Or the ones that met officially.
Yeah.
Or there might be, like I'm on transportation, if there's something that I would like to have happen. Maybe I just need to get that on the agenda itself.
probably, I mean, if, I would say if there's concerns from the Federation.
And it was just more
to any of you,
information and.
If it's just information sharing, it could be during the SIFT report that you met with SIFT and this is what you've gone over, or you've met with, or during my report, or I could just add a committee if there is anything to add.
Just get
I mean,
with you a week before.
yeah, if there's things that you would like to add to the committee, I'll just put committee at the end and or at the beginning, wherever you want it, and you could just add, yeah, we would want something written so we're not
And like after they do
blindsiding
the
each other
grounds,
like we're
yeah. You know, they'll have some highlights.
Yeah.
Some notes, and then that report would be part of the report packet, at least with. And the interview committee, we interviewed X number of people or something, just some,
Yeah,
Just
and I'll
some
include
information.
that. I wouldn't want to do every committee.
no, because there's no need.
Yeah.
I've got it noted, so, and I'll take a look at like
And
Polson's
how other
layout for
people
that.
do it, or
I'll take, since you brought up Polson, I'll take a look at their layout and see what they have and. if there's
maybe it
anything.
was just that month they did, but
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's every month that they probably
Yeah.
let the committees weigh in, but. Just
We
thought,
can
anybody
do
else
that.
have any thoughts on committee reports?
Yeah, and I think if there are things that come up that are concerning, I think the whole point of it was if there are things that come up that are concerning that maybe need to be expressed, opportunities for board members to talk to a principal, talk to a superintendent, talk to clerk, hey, these are, what's going on with this? What's happening with that? I mean, those are great, just conversations. I mean,
Because that's
may
just
come
our
up.
method of running the board as committees.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe
I-
just
I-
one of the
I'm
two on the committee could say, you're gonna be the spokesman, so it's not getting doubled up with, yeah, here's my report, oh, here's my report. Or whatever.
You're thinking of a written thing.
Yeah, if that's how they'd rather have it for the board packet, so it was no surprises.
Either way,
Sign on.
Mr. Zerda, when do you need stuff again? Like the week before the meeting?
like so if meeting's on Tuesday, I'd like it by like the Wednesday or Thursday. Fridays get a little crazy,
Right.
trying to get everything in, so
Yeah, and post it.
we miss things as it is, so.
That'd be it. If I submitted something, it'd be motivation for me to figure out how to get into.
The week before.
That's not where you put it.
Been the week of, so.
The week before?
Week before, way busier than the weekend. So.
Okay. Anything else? All right, meeting adjourned, 10:08.
No, wait,
All right.
I got it. Okay.
Sign it.
Yeah, you know what?
I'll come in tomorrow.
Thank you.
Jim's report, did that get?
I haven't even turned back to look at it,
Yeah.
running up other numbers. But yeah,
And maybe I can't,
you can, I think it's a simple Google search.
public information.
It's public information, that's what it was in place for. I do know that some schools code it differently. We code ours a lot more linear, meaning like per school versus splitting it out. When I've looked at it, some schools, it looks like principals are making or clerks are making a different amount when really it's spread between, three different places. So, but yeah, it's public information. So.